Hi friends, this is Sarvijang here. Welcome to my networking channel. Hope all are doing good. And today the topic I am going to discuss about how to configure OSPF stub in a Fortigate firewall. So what is stub? Stub is used to block the external routes. So that is the purpose of stub. So the stub contains the intra-area routes that within the area and the inter-area routes and the default routes. And it is always does not contain any external routes that is from a non-OSPF domain. So for that now what I am going to do is so I connected three firewall 1, 2 and 3. First I'm going to configure this directly connected interfaces. Then I will configure OSPF in area 0 between firewall 1 and 2, and between firewall 2 and 3 I'm going to configure in area 1. So this will be backbone area and this will be in area 1, and this firewall we call it as an ABR, area border router, which is used to interconnect multiple areas. So this area 1 I'm going to configure as a stub area. So for a better understanding, let us go to the configuration and let us define the directly connected interfaces. Then we'll configure the OSPF and the stub area configuration. Okay. So this is the interface I'm going to define. Config system interface, edit port 1. Okay, edit port 1 and set mode static. Then I'm going to define a static IP. Then I will be allowing the ping access. These are things I'm going to do. So let us copy this and paste it on the first firewall. Okay, that is port 1. Just log in with the credentials, just paste it and save the configuration. And the second firewall has two interfaces, that is 1.2 and 2.1. So 1.2 will be in port 1 and 1.2.1 will be in a port 2. Okay, so let us configure these two directly connected interfaces for firewall 2. Okay, so let us go here, log in with the credentials, this firewall 2, and let us define these two directly connected interfaces. So port 1 is 1.2 and port 2 is 2.1. Okay, 2.1, and let us copy and paste it. Just copy and paste it on the second firewall. Okay, so we have saved the configuration. Now let us go to the third firewall as only one directly connected interfaces, that is 2.2. Let us go here, second port, port 2, and the interface IP is 192.168.2.2. Log in with the credentials and paste it and save the configuration. So now let us ping the remote interface from firewall 3 to this interface 2.1 and firewall 1 to 1.2 for checking the connectivity. So the command is execute ping 192.168.2.1. I am able to reach, and 2.2 also. So how to view the configuration is show system interface port 2. So this is the interface 2.2, and similarly firewall 2 has two interfaces 1.2 and 2.1. Show system interface port 1, that is 1.2, and port 2 is 2.1. Similarly for firewall 1 it has one interface, that is 1.1. How to view the configuration? Show system interface port 1. Okay, 1.1. So first we have defined the directly connected interfaces. So now we'll go ahead and configure the OSPF in area 0. This firewall 1 and 2 I'm going to configure OSPF in area 0, and firewall 2 and 3 I'm going to configure in area 1. Okay, and then what I'm going to define is I'm going to define a loopback address 3.3.3 on firewall 3, and I'm going to advertise this as an external route. I'm going to show you how to do that. So prior to that we'll configure the OSPF configuration. So go to firewall 1 and 2. I'm going to configure in OSPF area 0. So the command is, the syntax is config router OSPF and set the router ID as 1.1.1. Okay, and now config area and define the area in a backbone area. This is the command, config area edit 0.0.0. So this will be configured in the backbone area, and save the configuration. And now what I'm going to define is I'm going to define this particular network, like we can advertise this prefix. So config network and add the entry edit 1 and set the prefix. So the prefix is 192.168.1.network, right? So 192.168.1.0/24 and save the configuration. So we have done with the OSPF configuration. So what are things I have done is I have to go into config router OSPF and I define this interface in area 0. Then we advertise this prefix. So let us view the configuration. Show router OSPF. So this will show the configuration. Okay, so you're able to see config router OSPF, and I set the router ID and I define the interface in a backbone area 0.0.0. Then through network statement I advertise this prefix. So these are things I have done. Similar way, let us go to firewall 2 and let us define this interface, that is port 1 in the same backbone area. Then we'll go to area 1. Okay, so let us go to the second firewall. Config router OSPF. Always set the router ID as 2.2.2. This is for firewall 2. And then config area. Okay, define the backbone area 0.0.0.0. Okay, and now save the configuration and advertise the prefix. Config network, add the entry, that is first entry, edit 1, and add the prefix. Advertise the prefix as 192.168.1.0/24 and save the configuration. Okay, show router OSPF. So we have done only this interface in area 0. Okay, so config router OSPF, set the router ID, define the area as a backbone area, and we have advertised the network. So this is the proper syntax for the configuring OSPF. Okay, so now let us also go to the second interface in area 1. How to define this is, go to similarly config router OSPF. Okay, and config area, let us define the areas 0.0.0.1. Okay, so this is for this particular interface, this particular network 192.168.2. network. Okay, now save the configuration and go to network. So we added the area, backbone area. First we added backbone area and the second area is area 1. Okay, so now in this area 1 I'm going to define this particular network. Okay, so go to config network and edit 2. That is the second statement. I'm going to add a second entry and we have to define the network. Okay, set prefix. What is the network is 192.168.2. network, right? So 192.168.2.0/24. Then also keep it in mind, for area 1 I have to define this area for this particular prefix. Okay, so otherwise it's very difficult to identify which area, which network or which prefix. So now set prefix, then we have to set the area is 0.0.0.1. Okay, now save the configuration. Now let us view the configuration. Show router OSPF. So now you are able to see, right? So I added in a network statement, I have defined two prefix. So one prefix 192.168.1.0, by default it will take it in backbone area, and the second prefix we have to advertise in the area 1. So I have to manually define an area. Okay, so by default this will be advertised in backbone area. So the second entry I added advertise this prefix 192.168.2. network, and I defined the area in 0.0.1, that is area 1. Okay, so that's all I have done from this firewall 2 configuration. So now let us go to firewall 3 and let us define this particular network in the same area 1. Okay, so go to third firewall and log in with the credentials. So config router OSPF. Okay, and let us set the router ID as 3.3.3, and this also I'm going to define as a loopback address for this 3.3.3. Okay, I set the router ID, and now let us define the area. So config area, I'm going to add it as area 1. So 0.0.0.1, add the area, save the configuration. Now let us go to config network, and this network I am going to advertise this prefix in area 1. Okay, so edit 1, that is first entry, set the prefix as 192.168.2.0/24, then set the area, that is 0.0.0.1. Okay, save the configuration. So we have done with the OSPF configuration between firewall 1 and 2 in area 0, that is backbone area, and firewall 2 and 3 are configured in area 1. So now let us check the neighbor relationship. Okay, let us check from firewall 1. So get router info OSPF neighbor. So the neighbor relationship is established. Let us go to the firewall 2, which has two neighbors. One neighbor is in area 0 and another neighbor is in area 1. Similar way, let us go here, get router OS info. This is a command OSPF neighbor. So the neighbor is already established. So now what I'm going to do is, now let us check the network entries. Okay, so prior to that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define this loopback address 3.3.3. What the router ID we have set, the same thing I'm going to define this as a loopback address 3.3.3, and I'm going to advertise this loopback address as an external route. Okay, so this is mainly to check the OSPF stub feature. So two scenarios we can test. First, without stub, how we can see the routing entries, and after adding the stub area, how the routing entries, or how the entries in the routing table, OSPF routing table. Okay, these are the two scenarios I'm going to validate today. So let us define this loopback address and advertise this as an external route. Okay, so let us go here, config router OSPF, and so okay, it is like config system interface, define the loopback address, right? So edit, let us add the interface as loop, edit loop, then set the domain. So in case of loopback address, we have set the virtual domain, that is by default is root. And now let us set the interface type. Okay, so set the interface type as loopback. Since I'm defining this as a loopback address, I have to set the virtual domain, and I have to set the type as loopback address, and then we have to set the IP. IP is 3.3.3/32. This is a loopback address. Then also we'll allow the ping access. Okay, set allow access ping. So instead of defining a normal interface, I'm defining this particular IP as a loopback type. Okay, so now let us save the configuration. How to view the configuration is show system interface loop. Okay, this is a loopback address. So let us ping this address, execute ping 3.3.3. Okay, so only define the loopback address, still I have not advertised this as an external route. Okay, so now I will show you how to do that. Prior to that, let us check the routing entries from firewall 1 and firewall 3. Okay, let us go to firewall 1, and how to check the routing entries is get router info OSPF route. So this has two entries, one is 1 and 2 network. Okay, this network and 2 network. So this acts as an intra area, this acts as a ABR, which is used to interconnect multiple areas. Okay, so you're able to see one network and 2 network. Let us go here also to the firewall 3. So get router info OSPF route. So this also show this two network, one network and the two network. Okay, so now I'm going to advertise this particular interface as a external route. How to do that is go to the firewall 3, and also keep it in mind you already defined the loopback address. Now I'm going to advertise this loopback as an external route. So just go to config router OSPF and config redistribute connector. That means I'm going to redistribute this connector. Once I enable this connected route, automatically this will be advertised as a external route to all this particular firewall. Okay, so now let us enable it, set status enable, and now let us save the configuration. So now you can see this particular 3.3.3 in firewall 1 and 2 as a external interface. Let us check it here. Okay, so get router info OSPF route. So you're able to see, right, E2, that means external route. It is advertised as an external route, and let us check here also. It also advertised as an external route. So this behavior is without the stub feature. So still I have not enabled the OSPF stub feature. So after enabling the OSPF stub feature, what happen automatically? You cannot see the particular external route. Why? Because stub is used to block the external routes. So once we configure this area 1 as a stub area, it will not allow this external route. So you can't see the external route here and here. That is firewall 1 and 2. So now let us go ahead and configure. This area 1 as a stub area. That is the purpose of this particular video. So how to do this is go to firewall 2, config router OSPF, and config area. So only things I'm going to define this area 1 as a stub area. Okay, so edit 0.0.0.1. Okay, and set type as stub area, not a regular area, it is a stub area, and just save the configuration. It's pretty simple, right? So similar way, let us go to the third firewall and define that as a stub area. Okay, go to the third firewall. Okay, so config router OSPF and config area. Okay, edit the areas. There are two areas we already defined, that is 0.0.1, right? 0.0.0.1. Okay, set the type as stub area. So that's all about the stub configuration. So let us view the configuration. Show router OSPF. So I have done only this particular area 1 as a stub area in both firewall 2 and 3. Show router OSPF. Okay. So this defined as a stub area. Okay. So now let us check the routing entries, OSPF routing entries in firewall 2 and firewall 3. Okay. So go here, get router info OSPF route. So now you are not able to see the 3.3 network. So previously you are able to see the external route. So that means the stub feature is working fine. You are not able to see the external route. So let us go to firewall 1 and let us check the entry. And you are not able to see the external route, right? So that's all about this stub feature. So get router info OSPF route. Okay. So now you are is able to see only the 1 dot network and 2 dot network. So one more thing is pending, as I already told in the previous video. So we have to define the policy for allowing from this area 0 to area 1 communication. So otherwise you can't reach the external network. Let us go here, go to firewall 3 and let us do a ping to this 192.168.1 dot network. Still I'm not able to reach. Similar way, let us go to firewall 1 and do a ping. So 192.168.2.1. Still I'm not able to reach. That means we have to define the firewall policy. So let us quickly configure the policy. Okay. So go to config firewall policy, edit 1, set the source interface as port 1 and set the destination interface as port 2. Okay, so this is from port 1 to port 2, then port 2 to port 1 communication. These are the two policies. IPv4 policy, firewall policy I would add for the communication, area 0 to area 1 communication. Then set the source address as all, and set the destination address, DST address, as all. So these are the mandatory parameters you have to define for defining the firewall policy. Okay, and set the schedule is always, and set service I'm going to define as all, and set the action as accept. Okay, so if they save the configuration, similar way for port 2 to port 1 I'm going to add a second firewall policy. So config firewall policy, edit 2, and set the source interface as port 2 and set the destination interface as port 1, and remaining parameters are all are same. Okay, default parameter, source address is all and destination address is all, and the schedule is always, and the service is all, and action should be accept. Okay, so these are the two policies I have defined for the communication. So now let us do a ping from 2.2 to this particular interface. Okay, so let us go to firewall 1, and so now I'm able to reach. Similar way from firewall 1, let us ping the external interface 2.1, I am able to reach. Okay, and also additionally one more command you have to see is how to check the OSPF database. Okay, so let us go here. So the command is get router info OSPF database brief. So this will show the database. Okay, so what this is the link ID and the advertising router, and also it will show the summary link states stub area. So this is an area 1 stub area, and these are the corresponding networks, and about the router link states it will show all the database details. And let us check from here also. So get router info OSPF database brief. So you're able to see here, right? Okay, so these are the things you have to keep it in mind about the OSPF stub area. So stub is used to block the external routes. So it contains, what are the routes it contains is, it contains the intra area routes, that is within an area, and an inter area routes, that's a route from other area, and it also contains a default route. Okay, so get router info OSPF route is for checking the entries, routing entries. So you are able to see the default route, and also you are able to see the intra area route, that is within the area, and from an inter area routes, that is from other area also you are able to see. So that's all about the stub area it contains, and but it is used to block the external routes. So what are the routes advertised externally? So it will be blocked by this stub area. So that is the purpose of OSPF stub area. And also you can also check the routing entry by get router info routing table all. So you can see the particular area by here also. Okay, this way also you can check, right? Get router info routing table all. You can check like this, or you can directly go here and check by get router info OSPF route. Okay, and that's all about this video, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos. Thanks and have a wonderful day. Thank you.